Kentucky basketball picks up another solid non-conference win, and it's all because their leading scorer finally woke up.
You are Locked On Kentucky, your daily podcast on the Kentucky Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, what's going on, Big Blue Nation? Welcome on into Locked On Kentucky, your daily Kentucky Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Lance Dawe, and on today's episode of Locked On Kentucky, we are going to be recapping Kentucky basketball's 97-68 win over the Lipscomb Bisons. Going to be breaking down the positives and negatives from this game. Kentucky's leading scorer, Jaxson Robinson, and I know he's not leading statistically, but we all know he's the go-to guy on this roster. He finally woke up after a rough game against Duke. It's yet another solid non-conference win for Mark Pope and the Kentucky Wildcats. Thank you guys so much for making Locked On Kentucky your first listen every single day. I want to remind everybody out there that we are free and available on all platforms. And if you are watching on YouTube live or in the post recap, I would greatly appreciate it if you would subscribe to the show. And if you're listening on podcast, I would really appreciate it if you subscribe there as well. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. You can download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. All right, let's go ahead and get into it again. Kentucky basketball victorious over the Lipscomb Bisons. It's not Bison, it's Bisons. 97-68. Going to be pulling up KenPom and give you guys an update on that here shortly. But just overall, I want to start here with the leading scorer. Normally, we don't start with the player performances. Normally, we dive into kind of the overall action, what we saw from both halves, some of the basic numbers. But I want to begin here with Jaxson Robinson. There have been things said. There have been many questions asked after that Duke game, kind of how he approached that game and how he would approach future games here after struggling to get going. And I want to reiterate a couple of things that I said during the offseason and just remind you guys about the construction of this roster and then Robinson as an individual. When Kentucky and Mark Pope put together this roster, they went out and got a group of guys, personnel, that does really, really incredible things and catch and shoot and spot up situations. Statistically, Kentucky's got some of the best catch-and-shoot shooters in the nation. Kobe Brea, Kirk Risa, just to name a couple. But in terms of creation and isolation, creation off of the dribble, a lot of these guys are not just poor or average in that category. They struggle. Guys like Otega Oweh, coming out of the portal, struggled to create off the dribble. Lamont Butler, another guy that struggled to create jump shots off of the dribble. Jaxson Robinson is one of the few players on this roster that a lot of us look towards in the offseason, and we said, okay, if the roster is not necessarily going to be good at creating an isolation or creating off of the bounce, surely Robinson, who was able to do some of that during his time at BYU, surely he'll be the guy to look towards in that spot. So far this season, Kentucky has just run a team offense. Haven't run an offense through an individual. They've run a team offense. Kentucky, you heard it on the broadcast tonight if you were watching on SEC Network Plus. Kentucky's on pace to destroy the assist record here at Kentucky. The assist rate is through the roof. Tonight, they did a decent job of it, not creating a ton in the assist category, but still team offense. You could see it in the way that Mark Pope wants to run things. Robinson, therefore, has not had a ton of opportunities to kind of create those things in isolation or to create off the dribble. Tonight, we saw that. 20 points, 6 of 10 shooting, 3 of 6 from the floor, made all of his free throws after starting off cold from the foul line. He had 7 rebounds to go along with that in just 22 minutes of play. You're going to see stat lines like this throughout the entire season, I think, from Robinson and from other major contributors on this team, where you're going to see about 20 minutes, and then you're going to see nearly 20 points. You're going to see guys that just have an efficient outing. Just because he had a bad game against Duke does not mean we should have any sort of concerns or any sort of thoughts about what Jaxson Robinson is. Let's be very clear. He was brought in to do one thing, and that is score the rock. He's going to have moments this year where you have team offense, he steps aside. Maybe he doesn't shoot that well. And then he's going to have moments where he can take over in different moments. He can create off the dribble. He can hit those threes in transition whenever he's able to kind of step to the side or step back. I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing if Jaxson Robinson is not scoring 20 points every single night. But whenever he has games like this, obviously it's welcome and it's accepted. We'll continue to break down here kind of what's going on tonight. Kentucky basketball victorious 97-68. Some other major performers. I want to talk about this defense, though, that Kentucky basketball played, destroying Lipscomb in a variety of ways. Before we dive into that, though, I want to tell you guys about our friends over at Roy. Kentucky fans, you need to download the Roy app. You've heard us talk about Roy this season and how they are revolutionizing the NIL industry, and Roy allows you, the fan, to get to have a say in who gets that NIL money. And here's what I absolutely love about Roy. You get your money back even if that player transfers. Roy is helping us keep our team intact, and it's actually good for the long-term game. Obviously, Kentucky football not having the best season, but I'll tell you who is a bright spot that could be very special for years to come, and that is Jamarian Wilcox, the running back here, the freshman for Kentucky. Wilcox was really, really good in the win over Murray State. You can show your support for Wilcox by depositing a little appreciation onto that player's account. To do that, you join Roy, download the Roy app. You can see what the logo looks like if you're watching on YouTube, or you can go to joinroy.com. We'll spotlight Roy's Player of the Week, my Kentucky Football Roy Player of the Week, and again, it's Jamarian Wilcox. I'm going to throw some money into his account this week on Roy. Every contribution that you give to Wilcox or any Kentucky player counts. 10, 20 bucks, all adds up. It's going to help you and your favorite players stay put with Kentucky football. Join me. Show some love for him. You can download the Roy app or go to joinroy.com today. Use promo code LOCKEDON. Every athlete from every single team is there. It's no purchase necessary, void where prohibited. You can go to joinroy.com for full terms. The place you need to go for all of your NIL action with Roy. Support the players and change the game. Today's episode is also brought to you by Game Time. Guys, you've heard me talk a lot about just how incredible Game Time has been for not just sporting events, not just college basketball, college football tickets. It's also concerts, it's theater, it's music, it's anything near you. I've utilized Game Time for several years now, going to all kinds of events, and it has been incredible. Most recent, Porter Robinson concert, incredible, love it. But you know how good the atmosphere is at a Kentucky basketball game. If you want to get tickets to go see Kentucky play in Rupp Arena, there's no other place you need to go than Game Time Picks. Game Time Picks makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play even easier. It filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. All-in pricing, views from your seat, lowest price guarantee. It's the place you need to go to get your tickets. You can take the guesswork out of buying your tickets with Game Time Picks by downloading the Game Time app, creating an account, and using code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. All right, continuing along here on the Tuesday night edition of Locked On Kentucky. Lance Dawe hanging out here with you. Really appreciate you guys checking out the show today. If you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel or the podcast feed, I would greatly appreciate it if you did so. Recapping Kentucky basketball's 97-68 win over the Lipscomb Bisons. Let's talk about this defense here. After that, I want to take a look at KenPom because there's some really good news over there on KenPom. But let's talk about that defense. There have been concerns, different times, about how Kentucky will do, I think, just overall inside the paint. Can Amari Williams and Brandon Garrison keep up with some of the big-time forces they are going to encounter in the front courts in the SEC this season? I think there were some questions, absolutely, that I had during and after that Duke game. Okay, I understand that Kentucky defensively adjusted and they played very well in the second half, but can they avoid an entire game collapse like that against every SEC team that has really good front court presences? And there are a lot across the conference, most notably at the top. And tonight against Lipscomb, yes, I understand that Lipscomb was able to get some points in the paint. They got, 34 of their 68 points in the paint, but a lot of that came in the second half whenever things were getting out of hand. Kentucky just kind of letting things go, understandably so. But in this game, Lipscomb shooting just 39% from the floor, and in the first half, 26.5%. Kentucky locked in inside the paint. They were able to control things down low with Amari Williams and Brandon Garrison, and they were able to go out there and completely shut the Lipscomb offense down. Again, in the second half, things got carried away pretty quickly as Kentucky went on a major run, and then Lipscomb at the very end, 13-2 run over the last 3 minutes. That's going to happen when you put in your subs. I was actually talking with a friend as this game was going on, saying like, hey, there's a good chance Lipscomb gets to 70 here. We said this in the preview episode as well. There's a good chance Lipscomb gets to 70 here, and it's not any fault of Kentucky's. It's just the fact that the game got out of hand. You put in your subs. Things like this happen. But in that first half, for the first 30 minutes of this game, first half plus, you were able to go out there and dominate against a team that's got a couple different guys down low that we were concerned about. They did not shoot particularly well in the first half at all. They were controlled. And obviously, again, you're not going to see Kentucky be perfect like this throughout the course of the season. You're not going to see them statistically be as good as they have been at different spots. But it is still refreshing to see. And on top of all of this, the Lipscomb in our scouting report, if you watch that show, Lipscomb is a team that gets a decent portion of their points from three. Now, they don't shoot particularly well from three, but they get a decent amount of their points from three. At least they have so far this season. They took 29 threes in this game. That's 4 more than Kentucky did. Kentucky only took 25 threes as opposed to the Lipscomb's 29. But the Bisons only made 5 3-pointers. 17%. Again, they shot better in the second half. They were 3 of 10 for 30%. But 5 of 29. I said in the preview episode, they played Western Kentucky on Sunday, and they went 5 of 31. I'm like, there's no way they'll do that in back-to-back games. Turns out they did. 17% as opposed to Kentucky's 48 on offense. Just efficient basketball. You cut down on what Lipscomb's doing offensively. You dominate on your end. You're going to end up winning games 97-68. This is how it goes. Against a pretty decent mid-major team, by the way. This is still a Lipscomb team that is projected to be one of the best in the ASUN. They're projected to have 20-plus wins. They've got some really good players on this roster. A couple guys that went out there and made some tough shots tonight. Even though we kind of downplay it at times, it is still an impressive victory. Defensively, Kentucky did well. And that turns me to KenPom real quick. Analytics website that I love so much. Kentucky was ranked number 22nd in the nation heading into this game. They dropped 2 spots for reasons unknown. After beating Duke, they were ranked 20th. Then they went down to 22nd. Before this game, playing Lipscomb, they are now up to 19 in the country. And defensively, you get to see some of the really solid spots that Kentucky has put themselves in. They are currently 11th in the nation in three-point defense. Just 23%. That's what opponents are hitting from behind the arc. They are 4th in the country in free throw rate. They do not foul a ton, and they do not put teams on the line. That's something that needs to be noted, considering Kentucky's already played a couple of teams that get a large portion of their points from the charity stripe. Effective field goal percentage is top 40. Adjusted efficiency on defense is still top 35 in the nation, which is huge. Kentucky last year, essentially all they did was block shots, but they gave up a ton of points and efficiency inside and out. This year, they're doing a much better job overall. They're also top 40 in rebound percentage, offensive rebound percentage on defense. They're not giving up a ton of second chance points. Whereas themselves, they're doing still a pretty decent job on the offensive glass. Kentucky now 12th in the nation in adjusted offensive efficiency. They're 18th in three-point percentage, top 100 in two-point percentage. Their block percentage is really high. Their steal percentage, they don't turn the ball over. They don't get it swatted. They don't have a ton of non-steal turnovers. Their effective field goal percentage is top 25 in the country. They rely heavily on three-pointers. They spread the ball around. I mean, this is what you expected from Mark Pope. You expected really good numbers coming in. Also something to note, Kentucky is the 16th tallest team in the country right now, which is Interesting. We'll see if that holds next season. But yeah, 4 games in, and the analytics all of a sudden are starting to love Mark Pope in Kentucky more and more and more and more. Started 42nd. I want to continue to remind you guys, hopefully it doesn't fall apart. They started the season 42nd on KenPom. It's the lowest starting ranking for the Kentucky Wildcats of the KenPom era. They're now up to 19th. So hope they keep it cooking. You got Jackson State on Friday. All right, let's wrap up the show, taking a look at some of these other major individual performances. Before we do that, though, I want to tell you guys about our friends over at Mint Mobile. I love a great deal as much as the next guy, but I'm not going to crawl through a bed of hot coals just to save a few bucks. It has to be easy. No hoops, no BS. So when Mint Mobile said it was easy to get wireless for $15 a month with a purchase of a 3-month plan, I called them on it. Turns out it really is that easy to get wireless for $15 a month. The longest part of the process was the time I spent on hold waiting up to break up with my old provider. To get started, go to mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege, and you'll see there right now, and all 3-month plans are only $15 a month, including the unlimited plan. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all of your existing contacts. It's super easy to switch, and you can find out how easy it is to switch to Mint Mobile and get 3 months of premium wireless service for $15 a month. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. That is mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. You can cut your wireless bill to $15 a month with mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. Disclaimer, $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions will apply. You can see Mint Mobile for details. All right, wrapping up the Tuesday night edition of Locked On Kentucky, breaking down Kentucky basketball's 97-68 win over the Lipscomb Bisons. Let's go ahead and talk about some of these other individual performances for the Kentucky Wildcats. Of course, we'll be taking a look at some plus-minus, some overall scoring. So we talked about Jaxson Robinson and his 20 ball on efficient shooting. Let's talk about Lamont Butler. He's not had the best year efficiency-wise so far, but he lit it up tonight. 16 points on 6 of 8 shooting, made all 3 of his 3-point attempts. He had a rebound, an assist, and a steal, plus 27. In the plus-minus box score. Kobe Brea, about as pure of a 3-point shooter as maybe I've ever seen. You guys remember what it was like when Kellen Grady was here? Obviously, you guys remember Rob Dillingham and Reed Shepherd a season ago. But Grady, a bigger forward-type player, wing-type player, I should say. And his ability to just take over games, knocking down threes in transition, it was just beautiful to watch. Brea, somehow a more smoother version of that. 12 points, 3 of 6 shooting, made all 3 of his shots from downtown, 7 rebounds, 1 assist, plus 28 in just 23 minutes of play. To give this guy a little bit more volume, again, I've continued to say it over and over and over. He's going to be incredibly efficient. I need to pull this back up here on KenPom. He was shooting 75% heading into this game. He's now shooting 78.9%. Oh my goodness! Some of these shots that he hit today were just beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Amari Williams, 1 point shy of a double-double. He had 9 points on 4 or 5 shooting, 11 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 blocks, only 2 turnovers in this game, and he's been pretty turnover-prone so far this season. It's good to see. Otega Oweh, 14 points, 5 of 6 shooting, made the only 3 he took, 4 rebounds, an assist, 2 blocks. Kentucky as a team had 6. Brandon Garrison had 2 blocks off the bench to go along with 8 points and 5 rebounds. Those were your major contributors. Almanor had 6. Carissa had 3 and 2 assists off the bench. The leader in plus-minus, though, was a guy that had 2 points. That was Andrew Carr. 2 points, 5 rebounds, 1 assist, plus 29, which just shows you what he was doing on defense against some of those forwards for Lipscomb. Impressive stuff. And again, you see it here if you're watching on YouTube. Solid team performance, led by Jaxson Robinson waking up, but overall, an impressive game for the Kentucky Wildcats. That's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Kentucky. Hey, you can follow the show on Twitter at Locked On UK. You can follow me on Twitter at @LanceDawe_. You can follow the show over on Instagram. That is at Kentucky Podcast. Any questions, comments, concerns, leave those in the YouTube comments below. Hit me on the socials. I will see you all tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Kentucky. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and God bless.